All right, hello everybody out there. Kareem Kandi here, and I'm doing another one of the videos for the Tacoma School of the Arts Big Band class. The online content that we've been doing, this is since the beginning of sheltering in place. So for a few months now, and several videos here on YouTube if you want to check them out, or if you haven't already. You should have already been looking at these and working on these at home. Hopefully you have been, and if not, what are you going to do? But hopefully you have been and getting some value out of these and been improving your musical skills so that we resume in the fall. We can dive right in where we left off here. So anyways, what I wanted to talk about today, today is our last video before the summer for you guys to work on, but I want to just talk about like how to practice, what to practice, and then developing a routine so you can keep doing these things. I've had several conversations with many of my friends and colleagues that are musicians and teachers and figuring out, what's working and what's not working, and we clearly understand, that everybody learns differently. Everybody's different in terms of like some people are tactile, some people are auditory, some people are visual, and we all learn differently, but it seems like one of the big things a lot of the students are dealing with as well, they only have themselves to play music with at home, or maybe like an online once a week thing with the teacher. So being motivated to practice, staying motivated to practice, and having something to work towards is can be a challenge. So just wanted to talk about that a little bit. I know for myself, I can only speak from my own experience, but when we first got into sheltering in place and not doing everything, I saw a ton of my shows get canceled, and really I probably didn't, in all honesty, didn't touch my horn for probably a month. I just didn't feel like playing, and I understand that. And there's been even before that, in the years past, there's been times where I just didn't feel like playing or practicing, and that's okay. There's nothing that says you have to practice every day. If you don't feel like it, that's okay. But ways to stay motivated. Part of I think for me, things that keep me motivated is one, listening to other groups, and now with the internet, there's and so many great recordings that you can access and listen to, and live streaming things. People that are doing things, whether it's a solo artist streaming stuff to Instagram or YouTube or their Facebook page or whatever, or some groups that are putting together distanced concerts where they're recording different parts and putting it together, or groups that are finding ways to socially distance and still put things together. You can still watch a lot of stuff, and also on YouTube there's a bunch of wonderful recordings you can see from any style of music that you can check out and listen to. Obviously it's not the same as doing something online, but doing something in person, or seeing a concert in person live, but you get the idea. And then also too, you've got you could still, if you wanted to prepare for something, you can say, well, I don't have anything to prepare for, so therefore I don't feel like practicing. Well, nowadays, you could stream something like what I'm doing right now. You could easily, from a smartphone or a tablet or your laptop or desktop at home, practice, put together a piece, and then play it online, whether it's or try to put together some sort of project with some of your friends where maybe, like I said, you each record something differently and put it together, or, you record something where you're 6 feet apart from one another, safely distanced, or however you can do that. But, put something together so you have something to work towards and practice for, so that you are motivated. No better motivator, or a great motivator is, having something to play for or to present. So certainly that helps. Listening to recordings, practicing, watching videos, watching movies about artists, reading books about artists that you like, biographies, things of that nature. There's tons of things that kind of help, keep me motivated, and hopefully that gives you some ideas that you can use for yourself. But I wanted to talk about practicing again today, some concepts to use. The big thing seems to be knowing what to practice and knowing how to practice. I think the knowing what to practice, for those of you that have been enrolled in the classes and watching these videos, that's what we're kind of talking about, is what to practice. So that could be also, private lessons, or, checking out stuff on the internet. There's a bunch of stuff on YouTube and other people's sites now where you can get information about like what to practice. The how to practice thing is a big one too, and no one ever sat me down and explained that to me. I kind of figured it out from talking with musicians over the years, and I wish, I probably learned how to practice maybe 15, 20 years into playing, and had I learned those tools at an earlier age, I think that would have developed a lot further. And I'm not in no way selling myself short. I think I play well, and I have a lot of things together, and I still have a lot of things that I need to get together, but I now know how to approach practicing in a way that I feel is productive. And so some of the things that some of the tools that you can use for any style of music is, number one, understand what it is that you're trying to undertake. So, for example, let's say you're in like a beginning band situation and you're learning, how to sight read. So that could be, taking your band book and looking at whatever song you're doing, and you being sure that you understand what all the notes are, that you understand what all the rhythms are, you know how to play those notes, and you know how to count the rhythms in time, before you just play it. I'm sure many other instructors out there will speak to this as well, but, I've been teaching for years, and I maybe get a brand new student who's been playing in band for 4 or 5 years, and I get into a studio and I work with them and say, all right, well, look at the sheet music and say, well, what is that note? And they're like, I don't know. It's fingered like this, but I don't know what that note is. So if you don't know what the notes are on the staff, right, on the lines, if you don't know what they are, start learning what those are and learning what the fingerings are. Most of those beginning band books will have, or regular rudiment books or whatever, will have the fingerings in the back of the book and show you maybe 2, 3, if there's alternate fingerings. So really learn how to play your instrument, know how to play those notes and get a good sound on the instrument and finger them. So that's the first thing. Understand everything that you're doing. It could be a jazz thing. It could be like a concept that you're working on for soloing. So if you don't really know, like say you're working in an ensemble or working with an instructor, and they're giving you the information, but you don't fully understand it, you're not helping yourself. So be sure that you firmly grasp the concept and you understand what you're trying to do. All right. So that's the first piece. Understand everything that you're trying to do. The second piece is work on something multiple times correctly. What I mean by that, and I've seen this a bunch too, and just for the sake of example, like let's say you have a student and they play through something 10 times, and the first 9 times they make a mistake, and on the 10th time they play it correctly, and they're like, I got it, I'm done. Well, the way our brains work, the way our body works, with memory retention and also muscle memory, right, is every time we do something, our body is recording that and going through the motions of doing that. So if you've practiced something nine times or 90% of the time and made a mistake, and you've practiced it 1 time or 10% of the time correctly, well, what you've just done is you have programmed making mistakes 90% of the time, right? So odds are when you play that thing again, you're probably going to make a mistake again. It's just math here at this point, right? So what we want to do is we want to work on something, where we have the percentages higher. We want to have it more times correct than incorrect. So, and I've read lots of different things on this, and I'm not, I'm not the authority on this. I just have my own opinions. But, I've seen some people say, play something 10 times in a row correct, and other people say play something, 20 times in a row correct. I think find something that works for you, and you have to be honest with how much time you have to practice, So what I tell people is when you're working on something at least 3 times in a row correctly without making a mistake, right? So that means, let's say you've played something 2 times in a row correctly, and on the 3rd time, if you do it again the 3rd time and make a mistake, well, start over again until you can do it 3 times in a row without making a mistake. And then, which leads me to the next tool, right? Understand everything that you're doing, multiple times correct. And maybe we should reverse what I'm about to say, but practicing something slowly. There's no rule that says you have to practice something fast. And a lot of times, I've seen this in my experience teaching students, is they will play something really, really fast or much faster than they probably should, and then that ends up causing them to make a mistake. So when you slow things down to a crawl, or a reasonable tempo, the chances are of you executing it correctly are far greater. So basically, a lot of times you'll see it like a piece of music in band that says, oh, you need to play this at allegro at a quick tempo. Well, that's great. That's what we're going to work towards, but you're going to play something at a much slower tempo. When we're deciding what tempo, what's a good tempo, we want to be able to pick a tempo that allows us to see the notes coming up, and rhythms, see the notes, or whatever concept it is that we're working on. We want to be able to understand it with our brain, think about it, see it in real time, and then have enough time for our body to react and execute it, cleanly and relaxed, so that we understand. We shouldn't be practicing, and if we feel like we're rushed and uncomfortable doing it, well, you're programming feeling that way. We want to be relaxed and comfortable and understand everything that we're doing. So those are the big things, and for if you've taken all the other classes at SOTA, with Paul Elliott, he and I are in agreement on these, and we talk about this a lot. You spend all these years in school learning how to practice. So the sooner you can come to terms with these things and really understand them. They sound simple, but putting them into practice is another thing. and even myself, I have to remember to do these things because I get into with my horn or whatever I'm doing and I want to play, and performing and practicing are different things. We want to, and I guess that's another thing I would say too is, you want to break up your practice routine where you have some of that time devoted for, just focused practice, and then other time where it's devoted to just playing. And I remember, I think this was years ago. I was at the Lionel Hampton Jazz Festival, and Ray Brown. This is before he'd passed away, obviously, and he was talking about practicing. And in his workshop, he was talking about devoting some time for focused practice, like growth practicing, and then some time where you're just playing, because no one gets into music because they said, oh, I just want to practice. I mean, we all got into music because we enjoy listening to it and we like playing it and we get something out of it. So we want to have some of that practice time devoted to having the practice where we're making gains and growth in our playing, and we want to have some practice time or some time devoted to just playing and having fun. So there's something to be said for that. The other thing too is going back to folks that are just like, maybe getting into learning how to sight read and things like that. When I say, do things multiple times correctly in a row without making a mistake, I'm not saying play the entire piece. What we need to focus on are little trouble areas or places where, like, let's say you have like an 8-bar song or an 8-bar passage of something out of a rudiment book, and let's say you can't do the whole thing. I'm talking about, it might be just playing like the first measure of a song and doing that 3 times in a row, and then maybe adding the second measure, so play the first 2 measures, or it could be just 2 notes. It could be playing 1 note. Let's say you're struggling just with getting 1 note to execute. You might want to try just getting that note to start, by itself, just getting it to get a nice clean sound and having control over the start of the note. It could be that, or moving from one note to another note, but doing that thing, doing that movement, that motion multiple times so that you understand it and you own it and you really can play it, and there's not a doubt in your mind, that you're going to be able to play that thing, despite maybe your instrument's malfunctioning, then sure, you can't do it. But if everything is working properly, you know what it feels like, you know what it's supposed to sound like, and you can own it, and there's no doubt in your mind you know how to play that. So that's kind of where we want to get to with all this practicing stuff. But those are kind of the big things, right? So the tools are, again, recapping, understand everything that you're undertaking, that you're trying to do it multiple times correct without making a mistake, right? And then, picking a tempo that allows you to do those things, nice and slow. And as you can do them and have success with them, then you can increase the speed. But start slowly and do multiple times slowly so that you really have some control. And we talked about this in some of the other videos too, the kind of the merits to practicing slower. If you're practicing something quickly, your tempo is going by 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, the distance between those beats is smaller. Whereas if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, well, now the space between those beats is a lot larger, so it really hones in your sense of time and also your ear and sense of pitch and all those things. And it's just an ongoing thing that we strive to improve on and get better at, and keep us going. But those are the things, the simple tools, and if you can get those going on now and understand, you can apply that to wind ensemble, you can apply that to jazz stuff or whatever it is you're working on. It very much so helps. So other things too, I think, is having some sort of practice routine, coming up with things that you're covering all the bases depending on how much time that you have. Usually, what I like to do when I'm working with students is say, well, you have to be honest with how much time you have. It could be you might only have enough time for 15 minutes a day, or you might have 30 minutes a day, or you might have 5 hours a day. Depending on where you are in your life and what you got going on. So it's important to kind of figure out what are some key areas that you want to work on. I think part of that, you want to devote some time to sound, because you could be playing all the greatest ideas in the world, but if you have a poor sound, it doesn't really matter. So sound production, sound control, tone, technique, we want to learn our scales, obviously, so doing that, scalar exercises, possibly some sight reading things. If you're doing jazz, transcribing, that could look like you're doing the transcribing yourself or playing transcriptions and trying to maybe memorize that stuff, or analyze them and picking them apart and taking, there's a million things to practice, and then maybe playing through a tune, or maybe like pick a tune and work on those elements within one song, just playing the melody, all ranges of your instrument, memorizing the form, working on different concepts that you can develop solos with. Those are all things that, but kind of breaking it down and say, all right, well, I'm going to spend, 5 minutes on this, 5 minutes on sound exercises, 5 minutes on scales, 5 minutes on sight reading, 10 minutes on playing a tune, whatever it looks like. But, come up with some sort of list of goals that you're trying to achieve within a practice thing, and then get your clock out or a stopwatch or whatever. Use your phone. And as soon as that 5 minutes is up, even if you didn't complete it all, that's fine. Move on to the next thing and kind of switch that. And then the next day, if you can, get back to it and do it again. And the next day, those things, that time will compound, and these things will start getting easier and easier and easier for you to do. So hopefully this has been helpful. Hope you've had a good year. It's been obviously a strange year, not only for you guys, but for all of us as instructors too. And we hope you've gotten some value out of these videos. And if you have questions about any of them, you can shoot me an email anytime, but I'll be back there teaching in the fall. It looks like both in person, hopefully, and we'll see if online as well. But hope you're all doing well and staying safe, and hope you have a great summer. And I'll talk to you later. Take care.